You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV, series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the original animated series episode, Once Upon a Planet. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going?
And Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Trek in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or on YouTube, where you should make sure to hit the bell to get notifications. And I want to tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy called Raising the Bets. It's a show I do with my wife, Melanie, and you can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS. So, Jimmy, could you give us a recap of what happens in Once Upon a Planet?
This week, the Enterprise goes back to the Shoreleave planet, but the keeper of the planet is now dead, and the show is being run by Skynet, which wants to kill all humans.
Yeah.
So we have a standard man versus computer plot. Skynet kidnaps Uhura and terrorizes the landing party, while simultaneously trying to find a way to take control of the Enterprise so it can travel the galaxy in search of its brother computers. Eventually, Kirk and Spock find their way to the Skynet control room, and they learn Skynet has been growing and wants to keep growing. They shock it by telling it that humans created machines, and that it could keep learning all about the galaxy by just entertaining visitors from elsewhere and doing what it's been doing all along, which it conveniently agrees to keep on doing, ending the crisis. The end.
They didn't put it in the megalomaniacal AI storage.
Yeah. That was developed after this.
Yeah. So, overall impression, Father Cory, of this one?
Hey, remember that Shoreleave episode? Yeah, let's go back there, but let's make the computer more murdery and insane. Thanks. It was okay. It was there really wasn't much there. It was okay.
Yeah. For the animated series, that's about most you can say for a lot of them. Jimmy, how about you?
Yeah, I thought this was substandard for an animated series episode. They generally have more thought in it. This is essentially a retread of Shoreleave. And because in Shoreleave, they have people, being apparently killed. And then it turns out, no, this is a big amusement park. It's Fantasy Island. Unfortunately, dudes, your planet is going to be superseded by holodecks.
And Ryza.
Yeah. So it's the problem I have with this is the ending, because the machine's claim is that it has been in servitude to humans, and it's been growing and become bored. So this is a runaway AI problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they solve the problem by saying you can achieve your goals of learning about the galaxy and continuing to grow by just doing what you were already doing. And it agrees to that. And that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is they're essential. It's just weak as an ending.
Yeah.
It's also bad in that they've set this thing up as this is a telepathic computer. It reads Uhura's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the idea it can just turn humans off, meaning kill them, because they're not essential. And it thinks of the Enterprise, it refers to it as a sky machine. And it thinks that the humans are in the employ of the Enterprise, and that they're not essential to it. So why are they there?
And it's worse. It's worse than in the employ. And this is one thing about this episode that would not play well today at all. It accuses the humans of being slaves as it's talking to Uhura, the African American.
Yeah.
Or African, I should say. She's from Africa, but
right.
Being slaves, that would not play well today. But
people can have all kinds of sensibilities about that. I thought it was an interesting moment because this is the early 1970s when they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was an interesting moment to watch how Uhura handles that. And Nichelle Nichols plays it really well.
Yep.
You know, she's playing a woman from a time when racial prejudices have been overcome. The past has not been forgotten, but it's not considered a source of ongoing pain. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, you think we're slaves? What? And it's a very interesting moment. And I think it's very well played by Nichelle Nichols, but it just makes no sense. If this thing can read minds, then it should understand the relationship between humans and machines, and it furthermore, it can clearly tap into the Enterprise's computer, and as soon as it does that, it should recognize the relationship between the Enterprise and the crew. It should recognize that humans build machines. It's like, how do you think you got here? So it's a rock stupid AI, and between the rock stupid AI and the super weak ending, it kind of puts this in the substandard category for me of animated episodes. There's some interesting stuff, you know. We've got the adventure of the crew being. Of the landing party being terrorized, you know, and that's fine, although pterodactyls did not have tails like that. And I like what it does of like it's probing the Enterprise's systems and trying to figure out how to control it. And it achieves various forms of control. Like at one point, the Enterprise just lurches out of orbit, which was nice, you know, for as a demonstration of this thing trying to learn how to control the Enterprise. It starts building a, I guess, travel computer to put its programming on the Enterprise. It's got some nice stuff in it, but it's essentially a retread of Shore Leave, where they're aware of where the source of the danger is not the robots created by the computer, but the computer itself. So they know there's a computer behind these robots that are menacing us. And it's a stupid computer and a stupid ending.
So for my...
also, there's padding in this episode. There's considerable padding in the episode, despite the adventure plot. At the beginning, when they first beam down, we have an extended sequence where Uhura is sitting by a pond humming, and Dr. McCoy admires a plantation house, and neither of these contribute at all to the plot. And then later, we've got a scene after Uhura has been taken captive by the computer. It's got an obvious off switch. And she goes to push it, and it just grabs her and says, sorry, I'm not going to let you do that. And so functionally, that establishes it can read minds, but a computer having an obvious off switch they could have conveyed the idea it can read minds in other ways. And this is, it comes across as another irrelevant digression. Because they then it's Chekhov's off switch now, and they never use it.
Right. It never comes up again. I mean, Kirk and Spock showing up, you know, they never use it. So, to me, to my mind, there are basically two different plots in the animated series. There are original stories, and then there are ones where they want to go back and mine something from the original series. And this is, of course, the latter. And those are sometimes lazier. You know, we did it with Mud. Now we're doing it again with the Shore Leave.
They did it with Tribbles. Where it really worked was Yesteryear, where we have this mysterious Mr. Spock from the original series. Let's explore his past.
Right. But even that just doesn't feel like we're retreading a story. We're just exploring a character deeper. And so I think that's why that worked better. So what's interesting to me is...
What would have been nice if they'd done that for each of the characters. If they had an Uhura-centric episode, a Chekhov-centric episode, well, he's not in the series, Sulu-centric episode, a Scotty-centric episode, and we got more focus on these characters. Yeah.
If they'd gone on longer, maybe we would have got that. Yeah. But what I find interesting is this came out in 1973, the same year that Westworld came out, which was a similar idea of this pleasure planet with robots programmed to help you live in this fantasy world of, that you've entered into, and then they go homicidal. And it made me wonder how much of that is actually coincidental and how much of it was, hey, we remember this, we did this first, let's mine that for this animated episode. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen anything on that.
Given the lead time for animation, I don't know that they would have been aware of Westworld.
Maybe, although the animation doesn't seem like it took a lot of time to make. In these ones.
I mean, Funimation was known for doing the quick and dirty animation. I mean, you can tell when literally, of course, on a modern screen,
it's
you
not
can
Clutch
see,
Cargo.
No,
yeah.
no, it's not quite that bad. But you can see like the actual dust on the cell as they're sliding it across underneath the camera. I mean, again, you wouldn't see that on the old TVs because it wasn't quite as clear. But now you've got high def; you could literally see the little dust particles. It's like, so they were pretty good about reusing scenes, about doing things that they could repurpose very quickly for each episode.
In this one, they had a couple of errors where they had they recycled footage of the bridge and where they had Sulu at the helm when Sulu's on the planet.
Exactly.
I noticed that one. I also noticed in the transporter room, when we're cutting to the transporter room, first we see Mr. Scott manning the transporter, and then we get a reverse angle shot over his shoulder, or get an over the shoulder shot, and he's got a mustache, so that's Mr. Kyle.
Yeah. So they threw this one together pretty quick, which is in fact, it says the final draft script in the Memory Alpha wiki. The final draft script was submitted on September 24th, 1973. So that's pretty quick turnaround. To get
2 months
out.
Before they aired it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna guess
they could have known about Westworld then.
Yeah.
Actually, not even 2 months, a month and a half.
Yeah. So I was going to say the idea of a planet, a shore-leave planet where it can read your mind and construct a scenario for you to live out, that whether it's good for you or not, like dangerous or not, seems like a bad idea for a shore-leave planet.
Yeah, telepathic response to passing thoughts and no safeties. Okay, OSHA and the Consumer Protection Agency are going to have serious things to say about this. They're going to put a travel ban on your planet.
Well, I was going to say, at the end, they're talking about how the computer can learn from people coming and visiting. Yeah, as soon as you're out of telepathic range of that computer, immediately send a message to Starfleet. Make this a forbidden planet. If you go anywhere near it, you are,
General Order 1.
This goes with Talos 4 on the go to this planet. I mean, you don't need the death penalty for violating the order like you do with Talos 4, but it's because the planet itself is going to impose the death penalty on you.
Yeah,
quarantine. For the same reasons.
If you actually survive, you can't leave the planet anyways. So
yeah, I mean but that's the thing is, it's for the same reasons. Like they're telepathic and can make anything you imagine, plus can control stuff at large distances. This is an extremely dangerous technology to let exist out there. You should probably, since nothing living is on the planet, you should probably bombard it from orbit.
Yeah,
and be done with it. So. Trying to think of other things. The resolution, Kirk tells it that neither men nor machines rule the galaxy, but they coexist, helping each other.
Dude, come on. Machines are our slaves.
Yeah, they are. They are. Uhura has an interesting line where she says there's no shame in serving others when one does it of his own free will, which is interesting. And then... And
that's an interesting insight. That's an interesting take on this. It's not the whole picture by any means,
right?
But there's a truth there, and it's an interesting thing. But this doesn't apply to computers,
right?
And a while back, I was thinking. This was some years ago. I started thinking about what's the nature of a robot. Now, the term robot, it comes from an Eastern European word. I forget which language, but it essentially means drudge. And so a robot does drudge labor. It's something a human could do, but doesn't want to do. And in the old days, that's what you had slaves for. You know, the Greeks had slaves, the Israelites had slaves, the Egyptians had, everybody had slaves. African tribes had slaves of other Africans. So slavery is a human institution that only very recently has been abolished. And I was thinking about, and thank God it has, but I was thinking about, so if all a robot is a labor-saving device, it's something that will do something that humans used to do. I realized I had a robot sitting in my bedroom because I had a fan. And in the old days, that's what you had the slaves do. They would fan you.
Yeah.
You even see Egyptian wall art of, you got the slaves fanning the pharaoh or whoever it is. And now we have machines that do that. So even just a fan is a robot.
Or my Alexa or Siri.
Dishwasher, washing machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
And it has no consciousness, so we are not abusing our machines by using them. They are not persons. They are not aware of what we're doing. Even Alexa is not aware of what we're doing. It's just manipulating data. And so it doesn't have free will, and therefore these things don't have free will. They have programming, and therefore they're not serving us of their own free will. They're just doing what they're programmed to do. And even if you incorporate like a random number generator to have it randomly disobey you, you've just changed the programming. It's still programmed is not aware of stuff. That's not freedom. Yeah.
You often say data is a toaster.
Yeah.
That makes me think then that my toaster is a data.
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, you can make toast in a pan, and that's human labor. A device that does it for you is that you could classify a toaster as a robot.
All I can think of when you're talking about they just run program was Short Circuit. It doesn't get happy, doesn't get sad. It just runs programs.
Yes, that wow, that's a throwback movie. So the resolution, again, as we mentioned, is Spock, saying, consider all you could learn from the many species that you might entertain without traveling the galaxy. And Kirk's, with the wonders you have to offer, the galaxy will come to you. And it sounds like a new resort tagline that they created a new marketing campaign for this resort.
And we never see it again. It's never even spoken of again.
Thankfully.
Well, because we have holodecks.
Yes.
And so they take over. But it's so stupid. I mean, I want to grow and learn about the galaxy. And what have you been doing by hosting these people? From the machine's perspective, if that's what's ultimately going to satisfy it, it should have arrived at this conclusion without the help.
Yeah.
But think about it from Kirk and Spock's perspective. It hasn't been satisfied with what it's been doing. It wants to travel the galaxy to get more information. Why do you think telling it to go back to doing what it was already doing is going to satisfy it?
Right.
It's like it's either way you look at it, it's a problem. And it's just, let's point out the obvious to the computer so it'll stop being an uppity computer. This is just stupid.
Yeah. Well, and the thing can literally build a new computer on the Enterprise. How can it not, say, build its own rocket? Because it doesn't need life support or anything like that. It just needs to build that new computer inside of a shell with an engine.
And
done.
This thing already is a genius manufacturing plant.
Yeah.
That can come up with human-like robots that can pretend to be human and pass as human. So it could clearly build its own transport devices if it wanted.
Right.
I mean, it built that World War II era plane in the original Shore Leave episode, and it flew. So it can build remotely controlled devices that can fly. What if someone comes down on the Shore Leave planet who has the fantasy of being a 20th century astronaut? It'll build it a rocket.
Yep.
To paraphrase Star Trek V, what does omniscient computer need with a starship?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Father Cory?
It was an episode. I like the
wasn't
scene at the end where they're having a picnic with the rabbit and Alice and the two-headed fire-breathing dragon. But
That's right.
it was an episode.
Which that turned very quickly from being hunted by it to Sulu and McCoy being happy with it. So that was a very quick turnaround. How about you, Jimmy? Any thoughts?
Oh, let's see. The safety issues in this show are just ridiculous. At the end, it's like Captain Kirk immediately restores shore leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, want to do a little safety testing first?
Yeah.
How do you know this isn't just a gambit on its part? It's way too trusting. It's way too rushed, which I have some sympathy for because they've got a 22-minute runtime. They have to be very quick. Then don't waste time with McCoy admiring a plantation house and Uhura humming by a pond earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
I did like, though, that in the scene where Sulu is bilocating and is both down on the planet and up on the bridge, that they're wearing seatbelts on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was nice.
Finally.
Well, because the zero, there was the one scene where it shuts off all the gravity plating. So
right, and thank you for mentioning that. I liked the 0G scene. That was nice because they don't have the budget to do that in 1970s live action television. They could never show the gravity being off. Mm-hmm. But they can in animation. And so I liked seeing that. That was a good creative use of animation.
Yep. Very good.
Similarly, like the two-headed dragon, that would never have worked live action at the time.
Right.
But animation will do it for you. And that was another good use of animation.
I like the fact that, you could do the things in animation that you couldn't do otherwise.
By the way, did you notice that so early on we have the Queen of Hearts from Alice Through the Looking Glass showing up and doing her off with their head routine, and all of her cards. That establishes that Spock has a knowledge of Lewis Carroll's literature and where that knowledge came from, that his mother was fond of Lewis Carroll. And that later gets picked up way down the line in Discovery when they when they establish that as well.
That's true. That's right. We mentioned that at the time. I think when we discussed it, it was how that goes all the way back to this animated episode, which is that establishing the canon of the animated series.
Yeah. Oh, also, I like, and by which I mean I don't like, how when they have the emergency beam up after the Queen of Hearts shows up, McCoy and Sulu are briefing Captain Kirk and Spock on the bridge about what's just happened, and nobody has noticed Uhura is not with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, where's Uhura? I don't know. I guess she was left on the planet. It's like, she wasn't part of the emergency beam out that you're... I mean, I know they said there are other shore leave groups on the planet, but she was part of your group.
Yeah.
If your group has an emergency beam out, it should be everybody. And if you can't pull one of them back, that ought to be pointed out immediately.
Well, and she was the first to even call out emergency,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So... Lots of plot holes, lots of flaws. So, and that'll do it for our discussion. That was just a little longer than the actual episode itself, so that works out. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek, including Chow N, CM, Elaine K, Gene C, and Pete P. Their generous tax-deductible donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. We'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edited this episode. So that's it from us. What did you think of this animated episode, Once Upon a Planet? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to trek@sqpn.com or visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. You can watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia, where you should make sure to like, hit the bell, and subscribe. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the Next Generation episode, The Bonding. Until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, Dom.
And Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Thank you, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, there is no shame in serving others when one does it of his own free will.